Well, we've been talking new music tonight. We heard some live music earlier. We got to hear Mariah Haven's latest album. And right now, we have an artist in the studio who's getting ready to release his new single in anticipation for his full-length album. He's based in Columbus, and he is a good friend of mine, Mike McGraner. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So let's talk a little bit about your career as a musician. We're gonna build up the anticipation for this single because this is gonna be like the first time that most people have heard this. Yeah. I have known you in the context of the film world for many years now, but you've been involved in music for a long time, right?
I have. I started writing songs at 12 years old, and I just never really did anything much with them. When I was 18, I wrote an album that I had other bands, or like other cherry-picked members of other bands, and had them perform the songs because I had zero confidence as a kid. I didn't think I could sing. I thought my voice was very flat. I was very... usually it's not as sexy as it is now because I'm sick, but so it's a higher voice. But yeah, so I just kind of chickened out, and I made this album with friends that I won't speak of the album because everyone listens to their old stuff, and it's like that's horrible. Mm-hmm. There was some stuff on there that I like to this day, but for the most part, it was chicken, and then and I by recording that album. I had a producer on that record that worked for Pete Yorn, who as a established musician, and Pete and I were introduced to each other from him, and we just became friends. And so I've known Pete about 18 years now, and so I'll write songs and send them his way, and vice versa, and just like kind of. I've had a pretty good experience on the road with him, just learning the business and being coached by just observation. And I finally just decided, you're not getting any younger, just go for it. And I just happened to right place, right time. I direct a show called Night Owl Theater with Fritz the Night Owl, which is a late night movie host. And I won an Emmy for directing that. And the funny thing is, so that's where I always thought I'd stay is film, but music to me has always been kind of more important. And so we did Friday the 13th, the original movie, as an episode, and I flew out Adrienne King, the lead actress who played Alice. And when Adrienne was in Columbus for the shows, I was her wheels, and so we went to Yellow Springs, we went antiquing, we did all these things, and she knew I was working on music. She said, "You need to play me some." And I said, "Well, it's not finished. I'm just working on this album for like a hobby." She's like, "Well, play me some." And excuse me, she heard this one track. She loved it. She took it home. She played it for her best friend, Beth. And it turns out Beth has owned a company in Santa Monica called Imaginary Friends Music Partners for 19 years. And so Beth loved what she heard and wanted to add me to the roster of artists. And here we are now. So
like, no pressure that Adrienne King is like, play me some of your music, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid growing up watching horror movies, like that's Friday the 13th is a big deal. And so just getting to know her over the last 5 years has been awesome, and she's really great. But I'm just not a person to like say, hey, I'm doing this thing, listen to this. And so thankfully she forced it out of me, or it would have never happened. I mean, Pete's heard the stuff and everything, but Pete's on a whole different level. He's well established, and, But, yeah, so Adrienne who'd have thought? But and so Beth is my agent now, and she's placement agent. So basically, my songs that I write are for TV, music, and or TV, film, commercials, and she is my agent for that. But on the other end of things, I'm an independent musician, so I don't have a label or anything. I'm still quote unquote independent, and that's where this release comes in. So.
And the single that we're going to hear is going to be part of a larger album called Hearts Will Break.
Yeah, it's Hearts Will Break Part 1.
Part 1, okay.
So it turned out that I went through, a breakup like everybody does, and this particular situation sent me into sort of a 2.5-year depression where most of my best stuff was written, as you do. And so that was my therapy. I never actually went to real therapy. I used it by writing. And so the album was supposed to be called Hearts Will Break, and I ended up laying down about 28 tracks and assuming that I'd cut half of them out. Yeah. But then when I would play them for Beth or for friends, Beth said, this stuff's really, really good. And Pete was saying how good it was. So it was just like, there's not like a dud here yet. So yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, because I pride myself on, I really want it to be like every song could be a single. I don't want any kind of, I'll skip this one. You know?
Yeah.
So I really, like I do with, Night Owl and stuff, I want to construct it. It's all about presentation. And so the best thing to do was split it up and do a part 1 and a part 2 without being too pretentious. I'm not going to come out and do Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness right away.
I mean, wait a few years for that one. I
don't want to release a double album and be that guy. Like, this guy thinks his stuff is great.
Well, it's such an interesting journey to me, going from that 18-year-old that was like, you obviously had some confidence because you knew you could write.
Maybe, but see, so I knew I wrote what I liked, but we all know people that are like, I have this thing I'm really proud of, and then you're dying on the inside because you're like, I'm their friend, and when they play this for me and it's bad, it's like watching a comedian that's not funny.
Yeah.
So it's this scary thing of like, what if it sucks? Like, what if? So I myself would write stuff, but because I was living through other people, like watching Pete play and all these people, I figured if they're doing it, that's talent. I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing, is just that's the kind of confidence that I had to kind of push through and be like, oh, I like this stuff though. And it wasn't until I started realizing that I was writing things that I would listen to in the car. I'm like the single we're about to hear tonight. It's like I would crank this song and listen to it, and like the fact that I wrote it feels almost wrong. Like it's like a feeling of like you've created something and you're like, oh my God, I actually like this. Like you could step outside of yourself and say it's a good song. So yeah.
Well, it's so as creative people, we're so used to even when intellectually that something is of a certain quality, you can only hear the flaws in it. So to be able to have something that you're proud of, that you don't instantaneously go to, well, I should have done that differently. Like that's really saying something.
Yeah, and now's the time. I mean, I just think now's the some of the stuff on this record is years in the making, but I think it finally got, finally got to a place where I'm just, something about the universe is aligning, and this is the time to finally bring it out. And I think, it helps having the placement agent now is a kick in the butt to keep creating, because that's my job with her, is to keep creating songs, keep sending songs, and then those songs are offered to TV and film and stuff. So I think that through doing that, this is my chance to go, cool, I'll create a bunch of songs, but then I'm also going to now look at it as releasing albums too, because I still own all the songs. Like she gets the placement things, and it's like, so it's just a way to motivate myself to keep going at a faster rate than just, I'm doing this on the side of Night Owl as a hobby, because Night Owl's wrapping up soon, and it's just kind of, a thing. So now's the time.
It is so great to have that extra nudge, like, okay, we aren't all fortunate to be able to be creative professionally, but even to have, anybody in any capacity to make you accountable to your creativity can really be the difference between moving forward at any sort of pace and just like stalling out for, months or years at a time.
And it all started, Night Owl taught me a lot of this, because we, a new episode was due every month, and it would take us X amount of time to get the effects done and all these things. And I think it got to the point where I did my best work under a deadline. And it's like, you have to hit this, and you can't not hit this. Tickets are being sold already. So it's a matter of like, wherever it's at, when you have to show it, you just show it. And the pride in me would never let something show that's incomplete. So I thought I was like working at a good pace, and it turns out it's just, there's so much more I could have been doing. And I think the closer it would get to shows, I would stay up for 3 days and shotgun Red Bull and just do it. And then as it turned out, I'm like, I am capable of that.
Right.
And so then you take that ethic and you apply that to like this. And this album, a lot of it's a studio record. It's big. There's a ridiculous amount of tracks. I think the song we're about to play, there's 28 different tracks on it. And so it's just, I'm looking at it that way as a production, as like every little thing has to be there in time for release. And so nowadays, when you release an album, it's 3 singles, then a record. And so the neat thing is I have 3 deadlines to have those songs finished. And then the album drops on July 19th. And so it's like June 1st is the turn-in. Mm-hmm. So it's that extra motivation of, okay, this is a Night Owl episode, go.
Right.
And like it's going to air regardless whether you're done or not. So stop feeling bad for yourself and just
get
it
it
done.
done. We're talking to Mike McGraner. He is getting ready to release the first single from his forthcoming album. The single is coming out this Friday, February 15th. There's going to be a video preview tomorrow at 7 o'clock on YouTube.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, and it's Mike McGraner Music is the name of the YouTube channel, and it's at 7 p.m., 5 hours before the single releases. So when you're winding down for your Valentine's Day, it's a very nostalgic video that I think will hit a lot of nostalgic chords with people based on the footage in the video. So.
We won't give that one away just yet. We'll make people have to watch it. Let's give them the music, shall we?
Here we go.
All right.
First listen.
All right. First listen, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about it. Do you want to give it any other introduction, Mike?
This song was sort of a nostalgic look at being young and in love when times are good before it all goes south.
Here it is. Brand new music from Mike McGraner. This is called City Lights, and you're hearing it on Kaleidoscope on WYSO.
Forever
City Lights, the first single from Mike McGraner's forthcoming album, Hearts Will Break Part 1. That single is coming out officially this Friday, February 15th, and there's going to be a video preview tomorrow night at 7 on his YouTube channel. Tell me a little bit about writing this one.
This song?
Yeah, this song.
I write a lot in the car when I'm driving, when I have nothing to write down anything on.
Of course.
But I have an app on my phone where if I think of a melody line, I'll just, record it in my phone. This song, when I was dating said person, we would go to Cedar Point and Kings Island. Our big thing was to go to amusement parks and drive up and down the East Coast and just on the way back, they'd always crash out, head on my shoulder, and I'm just driving, hoping to stay awake to get home, but riding off the high of being with them, being around everything. And so those moments you remember that seemed trivial in a relationship, and then later you're just kind of like, oh, those are some of the best nights of my life. And you just kind of realize that. And this song definitely is about that, sentimental look back at the happier times. But I do think that, so I was just driving and I had the hook in mind for sure, the guitar part, the da-na-na. And so that beat and guitar part were all I had. And then I just kept going, I love Springsteen. I love 80s Springsteen. I love this driving E Street Band, fast background vocals and going. And then I kept trying to think of a song actually by Springsteen that sounded like what I was going for, and I couldn't. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, but this feels something like, and so I just kind of pictured this driving beat and that hook. And then I think the first line I came up with was just the really, the I want to see the city lights with you. And that's the thing where I'm like, that's got to come in over everything.
Yeah.
But under that, we need this dun, 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 this train of sugar, sugar, sugar underneath everything. And so I just look at it from a production angle and I just picture how it's going to sound, and then I worry about lyrics. So it's just literally humming these melodies out and going like this, then this, then this, and then going into the studio. And I'm in the studio twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, and so I go in and I just tell Ian Malachi, who's the guy I'm doing the album with, he's my engineer and co-producer, and usually we have a plan, and then I always go in and I'm like, I wrote a new song this week, scrap the plan. We got to record this one now.
The plan is that there is no plan.
Yeah, there is no plan. And so you just kind of feel like, okay, this is shaping into a record, or here's a set of songs, and this one's too similar to this. Pick one, and get rid of that song. And sometimes the songs that mean more to me lyrically are the ones I have to get rid of, and then vice versa. But so I think this album is sort of set up so there's a trailer out right now online for the record that has a snippet of a song that's pretty dark and epic, and that's the opening track of the record. And so I'm a huge fan of My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade and Pink Floyd's The Wall, and all these albums that have this giant opening track and then go into kind of almost like an overture. So that's what the track is called, is Overture, is that first track, and it goes right into City Lights. So basically you go from this the way I look at it is the aftermath of everything. You're in the dust, you're in the and so you hear that opening track and you're like, okay, we're low, we're right here. And then City Lights follows it as literally going back to here's the beginning. And so this is the happy time. And then this album ends on a very dark and sad note. And then part 2 will actually end very optimistically. It's literally just a journey through breakup depression and back up to moving on and accepting that you yourself are worth more than you give yourself credit for when you're going through that time. Yeah. So it's also me finding my confidence through music too. It's there's so many levels to me personally where this is my therapy and I had to get it out.
At what point in the process of, sort of this return to music that you had and starting to work on this, did that arc emerge for the 2 albums?
Honestly, when I just started going, this thing sounds a little bit schizophrenic.
It needs order.
It's like you have this, happy song, and the melody-wise, you can tell it's me, as a songwriter, just from stuff that I've written over the years. It's always it starts here, it's layered with this, and then at the end it explodes into this, ridiculousness. But so I got to the point where I was just realizing that, okay, these songs can group together with this feeling, and this song can group together with this feeling. And then these ending tracks, especially this one particular ending track, is called Silent and Still, and it's the ending track of Hearts Will Break Part 1, and it's so dark, but the whole track is piano, timpani. There's no drum beat. It's literally symphonic. So it's like, if I'm going to do this big closing track, I don't want to depress the hell out of people. But
there better be something to follow.
Or have you feel hopeless. But I'm like, what if there was a pause and this was an intermission literally started at the end of this album? And I've always wanted to write a musical. When I was in high school, I wrote a musical made from all of Jim Steinman's songs because he's my favorite songwriter. So literally Total Eclipse of the Heart, the whole Bat Out of Hell album, Making Love Out of Nothing at All. It's All Coming Back to Me Now. You could tell when it's Jim Steinman.
Yeah.
And I wrote this crazy musical about this like biker dude who falls in love with a cheerleader, but he gets killed in a motorcycle accident, so he has to fight his way through hell to find her again. And it was literally all of his songs, like Total Eclipse of the Heart took place on the beach with waves crashing, his ghost and her singing, and it totally
I kind of want to see this now. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, hopefully I get enough money to actually do it one day.
There you go.
But the problem is that was before Glee and where things like that were actually happening, where people were like, I'm going to license these songs that aren't mine, and I'm going to make a story around it. And so I definitely was ahead, but I missed the mark on like, I don't have enough money to pull that off.
Well, even I'm gonna throw something out there that you'll appreciate. Even pre-Glee, that was pre-Moulin Rouge. Which really predates.
Which is my favorite movie of all time.
Well, right, mine too. And predates the whole Glee thing of licensing songs and incorporating them into a musical setting. So you're just ahead of your time. Is all that comes down to it.
Yeah, I can say that to my grave. It doesn't mean anything.
There you go. I do find it interesting that you have this through line in your creative career, both in music and in your film work, of storytelling and of really creating art that respects the story and honors the story in some way. The story might not be the whole thing, but there's always to story and placement and timing and arcing and things like that. Is that something that has always been a part of your creative life, or have you found that that's sort of emerged because of the work that you have been doing, especially these last 10 or so years?
I definitely think anytime I approach anything, like when I was a kid, I used to make movies and just dumb little things, and everything had a beginning, middle, and end, and had a way to go. I think looking at a record is very similar in that I may have like a song like City Lights and two other songs together that are really just kind of fit, but it's like it's time now to slow it down to here, or this is the part of the story where we got to go here. And so I'm really the big thing that I've learned over the years is editing. And being able to say, now is the time where the story does this, and everything has a rhythm, everything. So like when this album's released, what you'll hear is that if you were to tap your finger out to the rhythm of the first song, on beat, City Lights will start, and if you tap your finger out to City Lights, on beat, track 3 starts. The whole thing is on a rhythm, and the same thing with Fritz's segments in Night Owl, where he'll say, and we'll be right back after this. And like whatever movie is playing behind him, I mean, I'll be tapping that out and know like start the fade out here. Everything is timed like music. So I think ultimately I've had that in me since I was a kid. And I would pick up on things. I knew I was into music because when I was born in, I lived through the 80s, I'll put it that way. And I was born in the 80s, so I'm not before the 80s, but I lived through the 80s. And when a sad song would come on the radio, I remember With or Without You when the Joshua Tree came out, I would swing on the swing set with my brother, and I would randomly start crying at songs that had sad melodies. And at 6 or 7 years old, you don't know what breakups feel like. You haven't been through that stuff. Something about music made me sad, and I could feel it without words even being a thing, and I knew right then I was doomed.
Doomed to a creative life.
Because there is an element of this. I will say this, that the person that all of this is about has recently come back into my life in an interesting way, and so I definitely do think there's an element to this that even though I know the updates of the story, I think that story on its own is important for anyone else going through it. And I think it very much, like a sad song or anything, it's like you will you will feel these things, you will get through them, and if you can sort of like leave something behind as a roadmap for someone that hasn't been through it, they can kind of look at this and go, oh, okay, well, this is helping me, as opposed to just creating songs to dance to at a club. I don't know.
You can do both. You can do both.
So City Lights, like I would love people to dance to that and jack the volume up.
Yeah.
But also under the surface, there's appreciate where you're at right now, who you're with, and how awesome this time is, because it's happening right now, and that's all that matters. And so that's very much the theme of things. Sorry, I kind of got away.
No. This does bring up an interesting point. So with with Night Owl, you are, you're making art, but it is, Fritz is the guy. He's the face. He's the voice. You are creating things to facilitate, him and his legacy and things like that. And this obviously is very personal on a lot of different levels. Number one, it's all you. It's your
weird.
voice.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, and it's also the stories are yours. The stories of these songs and of this arc are your stories. Was it at all, as you really started deciding, like, okay, I'm not just doing this, but I've got this nudge, I've got these people now, I'm going to put this out there. Was that at all intimidating to put yourself out there as a creative person in a very different way than you have as of late?
Like to sort of be vulnerable?
Yeah.
It definitely, I'm very aware of what I seem like to friends. In terms of, I stumble over words, I mumble, I'll cut you off in conversation. I know I've done it to you 1,000 times because I get excited and I'm just like, oh yeah, and then this. And the problem is I know those annoying things about me and I can see those things, but then I also know that what my real voice is and how I can express myself is exactly what I'm doing with this music. And it's frustrating because it's like, people are going to be weird about it. It's going to be weird. Like there are some close friends that have no idea even sing or have written songs. So they're going to hear this and kind of be like, the thing I keep getting is that's you, because it's like, because you don't talk like that, or you don't like, your voice is like way lower. But it's the thing is I finally feel like I'm able to speak in a way that I'm not held back by my stutters or flaws or mumbling or annoyance. It's like this feels so free for the first time in my life to finally be like, this is me. These are the things I feel, even if I don't make sense or if I seem angry or depressed or whatever. Just listen to this is really me. So it's finally
very pure.
Yeah, it's finally the first time. So I don't feel scared about it. I feel like I could finally have a means to do it, to express myself and to be able to talk, because I can't do it if it's not music. Art is the only way I can do it.
It had to be this.
Yeah,
because
I just I'm a total geek. I mean, we all have personas of ourselves where we think we look one way, or we think, at this event this is how I said this or whatever. And it wasn't. I watched my Emmy speech back because the night I didn't know I was going to get it, and so when they announced my name, I was walking up to the stage, and I remember just repeating every name on the team because I'm like, the first concern of mine is don't leave anybody out,
right?
Because you're a team. And then you get up there, and I just did this 45-second thing and left, and I don't remember what I said. So when I watched it back, I was like, okay, it wasn't too bad. And then I started thinking about, like, when I have done interviews like this for Night Owl and things, and I can handle them really well. But the second everything turns off, I'm a bumbling idiot again. So it's like, it's just, I think I feel better when it's just, like, on.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the prep for it and everything scares me to death. I mean, it's just like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I hope you have questions. And, but once we're going, it's just, I don't know if it's confidence or if it's just like, I'm finally getting to help you make more sense of me because you probably think I'm one way and I'm not. And it's frustrating knowing you're not how people see you. So it's, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And that to me just makes all of this like all the more exciting that you get to, roll this out, starting with the single, and the next single, and working up to that album release later this year, that it gets to be this sort of, almost like this shedding of, all of the extra stuff that bogs us down in day-to-day interaction. And you just get to say, this is me authentically and truly, and music is such a great way to do that because it is, kind of this direct through line to people's hearts, I think.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cried as a kid hearing sad
right,
melodies. Like,
right.
It's something
Some
higher,
kind of magic.
higher or bigger than what we are is music. And so I definitely think, but the shedding of the skin for sure. It's when I shot the trailer for the album, that trailer video. So it was directed by Wayne Sells, who used to shoot the Night Owl episodes the first couple seasons, and I trusted him 110%. Because my face is in there. I mean, it's in that camera. Really, like, you don't even see the top of my head or the bottom of it. It's in your face. And that was terrifying. And we shot with the Sony Venice. So it's you got this $150,000 camera, and I'm just sticking my face right up to it.
So your face is in there like in high definition.
I saw my reflection. We shot in 4K, so it's ridiculous. And I'm seeing my reflection in the lens as I'm singing. And I had to sing this song 40 times. I mean, we had all these different angles and stuff, but 40 times, and I'm looking at my reflection and just like, God, I hope this doesn't. Like, I mean, because all I'm thinking about are my friends and what are they going to say. And then my agent, when I had a conversation with her on the phone, as well as some other people, said, you're not making this for your friends.
Right. You have to transcend that.
You now are making something that you're putting into the world that is going beyond your friends. You can't be self-conscious. You can't, this is your chance to go for it. And if you don't, you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, this is your time to go. And so that's kind of, at the video shoot, I was just like, okay, just tell me what to do. And there it was. And so,
It's nice to have people around you that you can trust to say, him and your co-producer and all of that, people that you can say, like, help me be the best I can be, and I'm trusting. Have
Rachel Barbass right here is one too. She has complimented me, and we used to work together, and she's very cool. But she's doing my photos for the record, and I just that is a terror. Being in front of the camera for a change is very different. And we haven't shot the photos yet, but we're going to soon, so I have to go through this again anyway. So it's just I need people like her and Wayne and the people that I've worked with to say, I like this shot, or this looks actually pretty. And it's just because I don't know. I mean, I can't look at it like a director. It's different when it's
because it's you.
Yeah, you want to cut everything out. So yeah.
We're talking to Mike McGraner. His new single is called City Lights, and it's coming out this Friday, February 15th. There is going to be a preview video. It launches at 7 o'clock on his YouTube channel tomorrow night. We've got a link up to his music page where you can connect with him at facebook.com/Kaleidoscope Radio. And lots of good stuff to come. This is just the start, right? Yeah.
There's and on the website, MikeMcGranermusic.com, there's a pre-order for the record now. The thing I want to kind of push people toward, because it's just a limited edition, is there's a deluxe set for the album, which is the physical CD, the digital CD, a T-shirt of the Heartburst logo, which you'll see, and a City Lights 7-inch vinyl, which I'm really, and you can only get the vinyl with that set, but there's only going to be I think 300 of them made, so I'm very excited about having a song on. I've just never had a vinyl of. That's what I used to buy as a kid. So,
right. That's the dream, right? If you're going to release something, to have it out on vinyl.
Absolutely. So yeah, but that set is definitely, independent musician. All those orders pay for the vinyl. So there you go.
Yep. Well, we've got a link up to all of Mike's info at facebook.com/Kaleidoscope Radio. We will post some updates as he starts rolling stuff out, and we'll be chatting more as we work toward the full out album release. But in the meantime, Mike, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for sharing the song with us tonight a little early.
Thank you too. Thank you so much. Yeah.
My pleasure.